welcome to today's day in the life of a homemaker. I thought I would take you along for a slow, simple day at home, trying new recipes and some garden hacks. So I usually hang my clothes out on the line, and so I did that with these towels, but I also like to quickly throw it in the dryer just on the air fluff to help get that starchiness off, because the towels get kind of crisp when they hang on the line. So just to loosen them up a bit. So I'm folding those up. A lot of our bath towels we have finally gotten to be organic. It has been a long journey of transitioning over to organic bath towels. I get mine from Packed, and then my mom has gifted me some from Dr. McCullough. And I thought I'd share with you how I fold my towels for our kitchen towels, because this way I can fit them all in. They're easy to see. And then the beach towels and outside towels go in our laundry room right by the door, so that way they are easily accessible. And while we're here, I thought I would show you the other basket I have at our entryway, which is the sun lotion and anti-bug basket. So all the things I use for outside, I put it right in this basket, right at the doorway, so we always know where it is, and it's very easy to access.
Oh my gosh, I love this.
So I am editing this and I realized I never explained why we have juicy fruit out in the garden. So if you have seen our cottage garden videos, we have a massive vole or field mouse problem. They have devastated my onions this year. I've never had any experience with voles before, so this is all new to me. And my mom told me a few weeks ago that the juicy fruit, she saw in a YouTube video that someone put juicy fruit in the vole holes, and they apparently eat the juicy fruit and it kills them. So we thought we would give that a go because we are desperate and all of the other things that I've tried have not worked. So that's what we're doing. Are you chewing it?
It's amazing.
You can't chew it too much. You don't want to get all this stuff out of it. You can't touch it with your fingers. Find a hole.
See another hole.
Here you go.
Time for a juicy fruit.
What did you think juicy fruit was?
Like a gummy bear. That's what it sounded like.
A gummy bear.
These are frankly delicious.
I've been contemplating digging up the rest of my onions because they are just devastating it. You can see the many holes where there were once onions. Do you want to use my garden glove?
Got it.
I really hope they eat these. Gets covered in dirt. But
there it is.
there it is. Scott just read the ingredients, and there's
It's the corn syrup that kills them.
corn syrup. This is why it's been over 10 years since we've had, well, Scott's never had juicy fruit, but since I've had juicy fruit. I actually didn't even know that they changed the packaging. I was looking for the other type of gum. And then when I saw this, I thought it was like the little square pieces. So I was shocked that it's still the sticks. Remember the day when these were wrapped with paper and it was foil? Well, if you don't remember, here's a refresh. I found these 2 sticks of gum in my childhood box of things that I saved, and these were in it. So there you go. I thought this was going to be a nostalgic experiment, and I'm not a fan. I do not miss juicy fruit. It's actually something that Scott and I both are like, we need to go wash our mouth out. No offense to anyone who loves juicy fruit. Just not our thing. Alright, so my next project that I am working on is making geta, and one of the things that goes into geta, which if you don't know what it is, I'll explain that later, is beef bone broth. And my mom taught me how to pressure can a few weeks ago, and I didn't want to open up any of those because we just pressure canned them, so I decided to make a quick version of bone broth. So this only simmered for a few hours, I think 7 hours. I added some fresh thyme from the garden, and I like taking off that scummy stuff on the top, but I don't really think it's necessary. If you've never made your own bone broth before, I recommend the Nourishing Transitions Traditions book. Sally Fallon has a lot of really good recipes. Okay, now I am finally cleaning this spatula. So it has a very sticky handle, and I am using lemon oil, and I always use lemon essential oil to get off any sticky things. If you peel off a tag from a store and there's stickiness, it gets it off perfectly. Labels, it's perfectly. It cleaned it wonderfully. I was listening to an audiobook called Atomic Habits for free through the Libby app, and the library returned it for me before I got finished with it. But one of the major takeaways I took from this book is if you do 1% more each day, by the end of the year, you'll get so much more done. And it was really encouraging for me because there are little tiny quick projects around the house that I put off because it's just a little extra thing that I need to do, and so they sit there. And so I was really inspired from reading his book, and so I'm trying to notice several of those things every day and just doing the next thing of, like, that spatula has a sticky handle. That has been on my list of things to do for a while now, and I was like, today is the day I'm doing it. Same with the ceramic jug. I'm trying to get the smell out from inside of it, so I added borax to it. And it's been really motivating for me to see those projects of, I can get this done, it can be really quick, and this will make me 1% closer to the systems that I want to have in place for a productive household and a peaceful household, so that way projects are getting done. So now I have these peppers growing in the garden, and I didn't plant these peppers from seed. I bought them from our local nursery that doesn't use any chemicals or pesticides, and so they already had peppers on them when I planted them. And then I thought I had an abundance of cucumbers to cut, and there was just one. So my plan was to make a relish with the peppers and the cucumbers, but I only had one cucumber, so I had to change my plans. Also, while I was outside, I went ahead and cut my calendula. I like to save the petals to dry them out and use them in teas. There's a lot of health benefits. You can also make a face oil. Calendula is really good for your skin, so if you infuse the petals into jojoba oil and leave it in there for about a month, then you have calendula jojoba oil. And you want to make sure you allow the leaves to dry before you put them into any oil. Because I'm not making the relish, I was trying to think of what I could make, and I came across a hot sauce recipe. It's a fermented hot sauce recipe. I will link the recipe that I followed below. Scott and I have been married for over 6 years, and I just recently discovered that he likes hot sauce. So I figured that the best hot sauce he can have is the homemade kind. So I was really excited to try this recipe. I am not a huge fan of high heat things, and I also don't love working with hot things. As you can see, I'm wearing gloves, and that really did work. I wear contacts, so I was very mindful of these peppers not getting on my skin and then me touching my eyes later in the night, and these gloves worked wonderfully. So basically the only recipe is just the peppers, and I have 2 different types of hot peppers, and then garlic, and then the salt water brine that it will soak in. And the recipe said that you want to use all of the same color peppers. So if you have red peppers and green peppers, you probably don't want to mix them because then your hot sauce will look brown. Although I'm sure it would probably still taste delicious. So I waited until the water was to room temperature, and then I poured it over, and then I used the weight to smash it down, and I realized it still wasn't enough water, so I made just a little bit more to top it off to make sure everything was fully submerged in the brine. It has been 6 days since I've recorded this day in the life video, so I thought I would go ahead and show you the rest of my process. So this is what it looks like after 6 days. The water was foggy, which the recipe said is a good sign. I strained the brine, keeping some of it because you need it to add it back in. Add some apple cider vinegar, maple syrup, xanthan gum, and I'm pretty sure that was it. The recipe will say, but it is delicious. I am not a huge spicy person, but it has so much flavor. I highly recommend the recipe, and you can taste a tanginess of it from the fermentation of it. So it has been 7 hours. The broth is done, and now I am making Goetta. So if you've never heard of Goetta, it is spelled like Goetta, and it is a German food. It's big in Cincinnati. They actually even have a Goetta Fest. It is such a big deal, but it's basically steel cut oats with ground pork, ground beef, and beef broth, and then a bunch of spices. So I've never made this before, but I love Goetta. I grew up eating it, and I wanted to learn how to make it myself so we could have it whenever we wanted to for breakfast. So I actually didn't have all of the spices the recipe called for. It calls for white pepper, mace, and can't remember the other one. Oh, marjoram. And I didn't have those 3, but I had everything else, and I don't think it affected the taste that much. I didn't notice a huge difference when I finally got it done. And this is a very easy recipe. It's just long. So I should have paid attention to how long the whole process is. As you can see, I started this at 7:37, and it's about a 3-hour process, which is normally way past my bedtime. And then I also forgot about stirring the pot of the oats, because that's what you cook first, and you're supposed to stir it every so often so it doesn't stick to the bottom. And because I forgot to do that, it definitely stuck. So I ended up switching over to my other Dutch oven. The smell reminds me of South Africa. I'll let you guess. Yep. If you've never seen Goetta, you probably think this looks absolutely disgusting. But trust me, it is delicious. The flavors of this is so amazing. So this is what it looked like. You pour it into 2 bread loaf pans, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and then it's thick by morning, and the recipe recommends cutting it in 1/2-inch slices or it will fall apart. I like my Goetta very thin, so this first time I made it, I did it the 1/2-inch and it all fell apart as I was cooking it. So I decided I would freeze it, and this made it so much easier. So the next morning I took it out right when we woke up, and then by the time that we were going to eat breakfast, it had thawed just enough for me to do these thin little slices. And I like it like that because then it gets nice and crispy, and it is so good. You don't want to put any oil or anything at the bottom of your pan. You just cook your slices of Goetta, and it is a protein, delicious, filling breakfast. I highly recommend it, especially if you've never had it. Maybe it's just because I grew up with it and I have German heritage that it's more meaningful to me. It's a special heritage food and it's nostalgic, but if you've never had it, I think it's worth trying. It's not like the ingredients to make it are super expensive. And I'll also link the recipe that I followed for this down below. And that is it for today's day in the life of a homemaker video. I hope that you enjoyed watching it and that it gives you some new ideas. I bless you, I bless your household and the work of your hands.